I use he, him pronouns. I am a program associate here at College Horizons. This is about my fourth year working at the organization, but I've been associated with the organization for a long time. I actually participated in the high school program back in 2013, and it's such a phenomenal program. So for you counselors and educators, if you have any students who are American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian or Native Hawaiian, I feel like College Horizons is that go-to program for those students who are college bound and are high achieving students. You know, if they haven't heard about College Horizons, they definitely should be participating and applying to our program. But yeah, I did the program in high school. I'm originally from New Mexico. I am Navajo. And so I did the program when it was hosted at New York University, and it gave me all of the introduction to a lot of resources and opportunities that led me to my pathway. But yeah, it's funny that Questbridge is joining because I'm also a Questbridge match finalist, and so that's how I was able to attend Columbia University. But it was at College Horizons where I heard about Columbia, and then I also heard about Questbridge, and so it was just a nice exposure point. And let's see, yeah, so mainly at College Horizons before this year, but from 2020 to 2023, I was working on our Scholars Pathway program, which is more of a college success program at College Horizons. And it wasn't until this year in 2024 where I shifted my role from the college side in College Horizons to our high school program. And I've been taking on more recruitment opportunities and helping to pull more students, pull more high schools into College Horizons. And actually, this week we're wrapping up our applications. We're finishing up our read process. And so we're getting ready to admit about 250 Native students from across the country to attend our program this upcoming summer. Um, okay, why is like no windows popping up? Oh no, the thing looks different now for my share screen. Let me just do this. I guess it's just gonna have to do share as a desktop. That's not fun. Okay, let me just delete this. We're just gonna roll with it.
Good.
Okay, so I work at College Horizons. We're a 501(c)(3). We're a nonprofit based out of New Mexico. Like I said, we run college access and success programming, but also we run a graduate admissions workshop. And the specific type of student that we're working with are students who are enrolled in a federally recognized or state recognized American Indian tribe or Alaska Native village, or we work with Native Hawaiian students, and they have to demonstrate Hawaiian ancestry verification through either the Ho'olu Data Center or the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And so those are who we work with. We run three different programs, and mainly what I'll talk to you about is that our high school program. That's kind of our earliest entry point for a student to interact with College Horizons. But we are actually our small team of six people. And then four of our people on our staff are actually alumni of College Horizons. We all did the high school program and then eventually found our way back to work for College Horizons. But the way our model works, specifically for the high school program, is we run a 1 week program each summer. Usually it's been two host sites that we have. In some years, we have three host sites. Usually that's whenever we get a program to be hosted by Hawaii Preparatory Academy on the Big Island, but usually it's two universities who are hosting us for the summer. And so we do the work on the front end. We do the work of recruiting, trying to find these students, working with counselors to bring them into our program, have them apply, admit them. And then we're also coordinating with about it's over 50, but now we're maintaining about 70 college partnerships. And you can go to our website to learn more about the types of universities that we're partnering with. So we bring about like 200 to almost 300 Native students from across the country. They are high school sophomores and juniors. And then we're bringing at least one admissions officer from one of our partner colleges, and they serve as our faculty. And then we also find a few people who are expert high school counselors, some people who work in tribal education offices who are pretty familiar with the college admissions process. And we're bringing all these people together on a campus, and we're trying to make Native students become experts on the college admissions process. And so we run through everything at the program with these students. So this is typically what we cover at our program. So we're talking about the essays, we're talking about a college application list, all the things that you want to talk about with these students. But what makes our program unique is because we're only working with Native American, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian students, we're talking about each of these elements specifically from those students' perspective. So we run the range of students in terms of their cultural connection and their Native identities. So we have students who speak their language, they live in their community, they're involved culturally, they attend all the ceremonies and community events. And then we have students who, because of many historical reasons, are not as culturally connected. And so what we're trying to do is trying to nudge these students that they do belong at these campuses, that they are able to succeed in these spaces. And when it comes time for them to really go connect with like the written pieces of the college application, that's when we're trying to empower them to think deeply about their connection to their Native identity. And then our executive director, Carmen Lopez, she used to work at Harvard University. So her connections with some of the professors there, with the Harvard Native program as well. She thinks deeply about this concept of nation building. And so when we're talking with our Native students, we're trying to nudge them to think about these pieces about who they are as young Native people and thinking about how they can use a college and career to be supportive and give back to their tribal community. So these are all the things that we work with the students. This summer, we're going to be hosted by University of Pennsylvania and the University of Notre Dame, which we're really excited for. Next year, we already have our sites selected for next summer, so that's really exciting. One will be in Hawaii, which we're really excited for because that's when we only invite Native Hawaiian students to that program. So it's more of a cost-efficient program to keep it more local for those students on the islands. I want to go through this one really quickly for our counselors. So we have 5 application components. The student application, we do ask that students are enrolled or they can verify their Hawaiian ancestry. So they do have to upload those documentation. We ask for a teacher recommendation just to kind of get to know the student in the classroom. And then we get a counselor form, which is not really like a recommendation anymore. It just gives like context of the school. And then we have a parent and guardian form. And so we use all these informations, obviously, to determine whether we want to admit the student or not. But we also use it for whenever it comes to our program planning to make sure that we have all the information we need to bring these students to the campuses. Another bit about our eligibility, again, they must be enrolled. We only bring current sophomores and juniors each year. They must have a minimum 3.0 GPA, specifically in their core academic classes. We do ask that they be a U.S. citizen and currently reside in the United States. And that's mainly a comment about we no longer take students who are coming from Canada or a Canadian First Nations. We've removed that as part of our eligibility requirements. Um, let's see. Actually, yeah, that's all I'll share about like College Horizons. I'll say so. I'm an alum of College Horizons. I think it's a big exposure point for Native students. There's a lot of other college access organizations that are out there that can help educate students about those processes of applying to college and completing financial aid applications. But what sets College Horizons apart from anyone else is because we only talk about it from a Native perspective. And so we want those students to talk about their Native identity, figure out ways to explore those pieces of themselves. And then when it comes to them thinking about um, what we really want them to think about is how to connect culture and community to college and a career. We want them to start building those pieces about how to make those connections. Because again, it runs the full gamut of those fully culturally connected students, and they're really empowered by making a commitment to give back to their community, and those students who have been living away or haven't been able to access pieces of a cultural community. And so they're looking for those ways to kind of build that connection. And those are all the students that we love to work with at our program. And I guess another quick comment before my time runs over is about partnering. So you can go to our website. On our website, there's a link for colleges and about becoming a partner. I can put those up after I'm done talking. And then I can also share a couple of resources with Virginia to share after the meeting. But we run annual partnerships. And then we base our model on how many programs a university will attend each summer. So if you attend two, then it changes the price for the partnership. But really, we're trying to find those college partners who typically have financial aid policies that are like supportive of students who may come from a native background, so not specifically based on race or ethnicity, but also thinking about students who are coming from rural areas, people who are first generation, low income. Those are those type of universities that we tend to kind of move towards when it comes to our partnerships. And it's not much of a formal process at the beginning. It's kind of like a relationship building process is how I like to think about it when we bring on a new partner. So it's not an immediate, like, let's sign the agreement and you're on, ready to go. Our staff likes to build those connections with the admissions officers, the heads of the department, and making sure it makes the most sense for the partnership to be a viable option. But yeah, at this point, we maintain over 70 partnerships with universities across the country. And so what we really want to do is find these diamonds in the rough, finding these students who are coming from reservation communities, students who are coming from urban areas, and being able to coach them along the process to think about their native identity. Again, building that connection between culture and community to college and career, and then putting them in the same room with some admissions officers who can champion their application or who can give them best advice on how to best situate their applications going forward. But that's the quickest things that I can give about College Horizons. But if you ever come across a student in your caseload who is American Indian, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, they should be thinking about coming to College Horizons, and we would love to have them.
Great. Thank you so much, Kendall. And if you have any questions for Kendall, definitely feel free to post them in the chat. We'll have time at the end for questions. I'll say, for Barnard, we are a College Horizons partner, and it's just really amazing to see the students in the summer and how much they get to grow and kind of connect with themselves through the college application process. And I think that they're always very thoughtful, and it's a pretty cool opportunity for colleges. I'll kick it on over to Rachel to share with us some information about the Questbridge College Prep Summer Scholars programs.
Hi, thank you. I see some familiar names, so that's very cool. My name is Rachel Fishbein. I am on the high school outreach team at Questbridge. I've been with the organization since 2012. And I do a lot of these presentations and do a lot of outreach in connection with CBOs, which has been kind of a newer initiative to really focus on that. And Kendall, it's really nice to hear from you and to meet you. It's always exciting to hear about Questbridge alumni. And it's exciting for me to also learn about new programs. I'm not very familiar with College Horizons, so that was really helpful. And I also think it kind of kicks off in a way, which is the two programs that we have that we're sharing today are very different. But we have many, many students that are coming through programs like College Horizons that are really supporting students in a hands-on way, in a really important way, and in a way that we are not. And so we have community-based organizations that are sending students and, encouraging them to apply and utilizing our application. And so we do have the College Prep Scholars Program, and I am going to kind of run through the PowerPoint because I know there are some people here that are very familiar and some people who are less, and it's always kind of a balance to have. But I think if you can come away with nothing else from kind of my portion of the presentation, it's an understanding that if you're working with a community-based organization, with students who are involved in other opportunities, that is never a reason to not apply to Questbridge. We do have some opportunities. We do have some in-person opportunities, but we are really a connector of opportunities and a connector of scholarship and support that is kind of adding on to work and programming that students already have. And there are very few situations where it's a negative overlap. It's usually kind of a beneficial additional thing. So to kick it off, I'm going to share, I'm going to share my screen. And as I said, I'm going to kind of run through this and with the idea that I can take questions at the end. So this is a very abbreviated version of our How to Get a Head Start presentation about the College Prep Scholars Program. And we've been around in our current form since 2003, but originally since 1994. And we've served almost 100,000 students with all of our various programs from the beginning all the way through. So between the College Prep Scholars Program, National College Match, Questbridge Leadership, which is the original program, which was very high touch. And the program that I'm going to speak today is the College Prep Scholars Program. One thing that's a little bit confusing is that it is related to the National College Match, which is the big kind of scholarship that people are more likely to know, but it is a program on its own in the fact that students can apply to this and then not apply to National College Match, although we don't recommend that. Similarly, students who either don't find out about the College Prep Scholars Program or who find out about it too late or who are not accepted, it is not it is not the end of the road in terms of Questbridge, and we can talk about that a little bit further. But they are connected programs to the National College Match. So we have 52 of the college partners. I saw somebody who used to work for Wellesley. Obviously, Barnard is here, some other schools as well. Our most recent colleges are Cornell and Skidmore. So we now have 52 colleges. When I started, there were like 32. So we do continue to grow either every year or every other year in terms of the colleges that we work with. They're all competitive colleges that are committed to meeting 100% of demonstrated need. Columbia, as Kendall said, is also one of our schools. I don't like clicking through. I like having everything on the screen. So a couple of ways that we're similar and different from College Horizons. Citizenship status is actually not something that is a requirement for our students that are applying to our programs. The big piece here is if they are not a US citizen, they do need to be within the United States at this time. So whether they're homeschooled or if they're attending high school in the US and they are eligible to apply regardless of their citizenship status. If they are currently living outside of the US, then they need to either be a US citizen or a permanent resident. So that's one of those pieces. But if you are currently located in the US and you're working with students in the US, their citizenship status is not part of our review of their application. We're looking for students who are very strong academically, so generally A's, and who are long-term low-income students. So loosely, that is $65,000 or under for a family, for a household, not a family, for a household of 4. And for those of you who have seen our application before, there are a lot of places where the students can really explain their situation further, and we really do take all of that into consideration, particularly when it comes to household size. So when we have a lot of students who are living with grandparents or aunts or uncles, all of that is included, and we really do encourage students to put as much of that information as possible. We do take all of that into consideration when we're looking at what financial eligibility is. I will say I get questions from educators all the time about kind of what can they do to support students. I know that's going to come up later. And one of those pieces is really encouraging them to speak to their parents, guardians, whoever they live with, whoever legally is responsible for them, to talk about their finances as early as possible. Because as you all know, CSS profile, FAFSA, they will have to fill out those forms anyway. And we get students often, one of the most common ways I think that educators end up having students that aren't accepted that they thought would be eligible is because the students have more assets, more savings, or more equity than they originally realized. So they might have been qualified for free or reduced price lunch, but they actually own a home and have a significant portion of it paid off, for example. So we do ask them to kind of share all that information, and we really are looking for long-term low-income students. Personal circumstances, they are not required to be a first-generation student. About 80% of our students are, so it's not a requirement. We all know that each school translates what that means a little bit differently. So again, that's not a requirement. We are looking for leadership and involvement, but that can be involvement and leadership through family responsibilities. So again, there are a lot of situations in our application where students can talk about what they have not had the opportunity to do because they have other responsibilities at home, after school with a part-time job. They don't necessarily need to be like captain of the football team and, you know, president of the journal, you know, the school journal or whatever that may be. But we are looking to see kind of what are they doing outside of school? What are their responsibilities? Where are they going? So this is our College Prep Scholars profile from last year. And I'm just going to show this. You can search it on our website. You can also search our National College Match finalist profile on our website from pretty much all of at least the last 10 years. But you'll see here really strong students academically, and then students who are, you know, 90% have a household income of under 65,000. Again, that is for a family of 4. So we do have students, especially with larger households, where that number goes up. But that gives you kind of a general idea. 2 pieces that I know have come up a lot recently. About 50% of our students submitted scores. So you can take that as you will. We do encourage students to submit their scores, but it's not a requirement. And particularly for the College Prep Scholars Program, which is our program for juniors, we have fewer students who submit scores because fewer students have just taken tests at that point. The application is March 20th, so that application is coming up in a little under a month. The application is open now. Students hopefully will have started an application. They are not required to be referred. I'm sure many of you have gotten requests to have students referred to the program. We ask for that because then we can send an email to the student saying, Virginia Hart has recommended you to start an application. It gives a little extra clout when the students see it. Little extra encouragement. Students often say that their educators were the ones that kind of gotten them started on this path, but it's not a requirement. I'll talk about it in a minute, but they do have a recommendation. The referral is separate from the recommendation. And unlike some other programs, you can refer as many students as possible. You can also refer students who are younger. So if you have students that are considering College Horizons that are 10th grade, students that are in 9th grade, perhaps that you work with, you can put all their information in and we will reach out to them when the time is appropriate. There are some awards. I'll go through that briefly. This is just to give you an idea. I think the big piece here, similar to College Horizons, we do require 1 teacher recommendation from a core subject teacher. For you who are speaking to students, you know, they're going to need those recommendations anyway. So this recommendation would have to be earlier. There is a form, although if a teacher is really stuck, they can just write a letter. But it is 1 teacher recommendation. And for the College Prep Scholars Program, there's no guidance counselor rec. It's just the teacher rec. We're doing something new this year, which I'm really excited about, that if a student puts in their college or guidance counselor information, and similarly for those of you in CBOs, if the student puts that they are involved in a CBO and puts down that person's name, this year, for the first time, that individual will also get an email saying that the student has started an application. So we've never done that before. It's a new initiative that I'm very excited about. Clearly, if they put somebody else's name, you won't get that email. So there's a little bit of the system isn't perfect. But hopefully, especially if you're a counselor or you're working with students who are a little older, now you'll kind of have that student in the back of their mind. It's a full mini version of a college application, and then also with their financial information as well. For the College Prep Scholars Program, there's no additional kind of outside information that they need to share. And for those of you who have been involved in this program before, there are 2 changes. One is that they are required to submit their transcript. We haven't done that in the past for the College Prep Scholars Program. It can absolutely be an unofficial screenshot, but they do need a transcript. It's not just self-reported. And then the other piece is we don't have a full essay this year. It's a writing exercise, not an essay. So that's a change. We've never done that before either. Those are the big changes. And again, I'm going to breeze through these, but there's a lot more online. Some of the awards the College Prep Scholars receive, going back to the program with College Horizons and some of the other programs that you might have students that are a part of, there is no required synchronous programming for the College Prep Scholars Program. So even the word program is a little confusing. It is an opportunity. It is a way for students to connect to other students that are like them across the country, which is really nice, especially if either you are the only student in your school that is, you know, kind of really struggling to pay for college, or if you are the only student in your school who's looking to go away for college, this community is it's actually, we have a lot of students who say it's the only reason they join Facebook, because at present, we do a lot of our kind of connection through Facebook. But that's a really nice opportunity for students. And then we have returned to in-person conferences. So this year we have 4. We have never had 4 in-person conferences. It's the most we've ever done. One is at Swarthmore, the first day of the College Horizons programming. So I don't know if they can like pop into one or the other, not trying to pull your students. But we have 4 in person, and then there's going to be 1 virtual also. And that's just a fantastic opportunity for students to meet other students like them. And then the conference is run by Questbridge, but then also concurrently run by all of our 52 college partners, with actual representatives coming from each of the schools. So it's a long day. It's really involved day. Students come with a parent or guardian, but it's really an exciting opportunity. So that is a one-time thing. They're not required to attend. So there is this virtual option. If they can't attend that either, that is okay, but it is a benefit. The other benefits that we have, we have a few spots at summer programs that are run by our college partners, including Rice, Stanford, Yale Young Global Scholars is one of our big programs. Most of them are in person. There is at least one online option, including Pioneer, which is a research program. Any of those programs are fully funded. So room, housing, food, tuition, travel. If a student receives one of those awards, all of their costs should be covered. Students have to note that they're interested when they are applying, and then we'll reach out to them if they are nominated. So they can note that they're interested now, even if they're not sure if they'll be available to attend. They're not committing to anything when they submit our application by March 20th. And then the other thing that I don't think gets enough attention, even from us, actually, is the Quest for Excellence Award. So there are well over 100 $1,000 grants that students can apply for. There's Quest for Excellence New York City, there's the Fine Fellows, there's Quest for Excellence in STEM, humanities, across the US. They're all different versions. Anything that the student is eligible for based on their background and their interests, they can apply for. It's an extra paragraph in the application. And if they are awarded, they receive a $1,000 grant for college resources, to buy a new laptop, to pay for college costs, college visits, or college preparation. And like I said, there are well over 100 of those. It varies a little bit from year to year, so we don't have an exact number, but well over 100 of those, and each one's $1,000. So I don't think we get lots of applicants, but nowhere near as many as you would expect. So that's another kind of additional benefit. And then we're doing a new, really exclusive, synchronous, which I guess is the opposite of asynchronous, essay workshop with Questbridge staff for the first time this summer. So these are some of the more specific opportunities. These are all awarded to college prep scholars in addition to the larger awards I shared on the other page. This is just a little bit more about them. We're going to go through these super quickly. Love the conference. Really excited that we're doing more and more of those. I know we have individuals here from all over the country. This year it's at Stanford, at Swarthmore, which is a new location, at University of Chicago, which is a new location, and at Rice in May and June. Those dates are online. And then I'm just going to share for students who are interested, apply.questbridge.org. Chances are many of you have been on our site. It's very, very involved. There's a lot of information there, much more than I could share with you right now. And I always kind of tout our YouTube channel because there's a lot of information. When I speak to large groups of students, one of the things I share is like, no matter what, even if Questbridge is not the program for you, there's so much here to talk about all of our individual colleges, like little 2-minute clips, how to write an essay, right? Things that are relevant to the larger student population of students that are applying to college, even if they're not exactly qualified academically or exactly qualified financially for Questbridge. There are resources there that can be really helpful. The last thing that I want to share, we do have these kind of Ask QBs. I'll be co-hosting one tonight at 9 Eastern time and another tomorrow for educators at noon. So if you want to pop in or send a student to ask some questions, it's literally our staff answering these questions. Sometimes questions that are very much available on the website, but also kind of more specific questions that we'd be happy to do. And yeah, I think the last thing I mentioned with the College Prep Scholars Program, we really encourage the students, if they are accepted as College Prep Scholars, to put it on their application. There are many of our students who, become finalists and go to NYU and Harvard and Berkeley and all these other fantastic schools across the country. And I would argue that seeing Questbridge College Prep Scholar as an award in the section, on the award section of their application is still kind of a notable achievement, right? So with that, that's all I'm going to share now, because I'd rather make sure that we get some time for questions, but happy to, extend in terms of answering anything more specific.
So thank you so much, Rachel. As folks start puzzling over questions, I have a few that we prepared in advance for both Rachel and Kendall. So definitely add some questions to the Q&A meeting chat box, and we'll start getting to them. I would love to hear, just to kick us off, what you think makes a successful applicant to your summer programs. I know you both touched on it a little bit, but just clear, concise, best applicants.
Yeah. So for College Horizons, our GPA, our eligibility is pretty straightforward. Minimum 3.0 GPA. They must be enrolled in their tribal nation. And for that's kind of the basic part. We want to make sure that the student is doing well academically. There have been times where we have taken students who are below a 3.0 GPA just because we recognize that the student is like culturally involved. There's things that are like worthy about the student. We may understand that they may not apply to some of our partner colleges, but they still have this interesting factor about themselves that we will want to work with them on their college going journey. But really, when it comes to like when the student fills out the application, a lot of times when we talk about the college application process with the students at the program is highlighting them, like the students being storytellers themselves and kind of coming from this tradition of storytellers among Native communities. So really, we're looking for the student who is a thoughtful and self-reflective writer. We want them to reflect on like where they're coming from, how they relate to themselves as a Native person, kind of their relationship to their Native community, if there is one. And so, all the students where they may be culturally connected, we want to know like what's been happening for them from their context, whether it's on the reservation or they're active in an urban Native community. Those are the things we like to know about. And those are the students we get excited to support. But for the students who may not be as culturally connected for whatever reason it may be, we just want the honest ideas of how they're relating to themselves as Native students. Because at the program, we're not coaching Native students to be Native and to amp up how Native they are in their application. We want to speak to their genuine identity and where they're coming from and the things that they're thinking about for their future. So that's the main piece, is them being a thoughtful and self-reflective writer in their application with their written responses. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to college admissions and the way Native students get read, it's always like a numbers game, and there's a lot of things that kind of go against Native students in competitive applications and competitive admissions. And so we try to do the work of finding those students who have that potential where, based on our knowledge of Native communities around the country with different counselors, we want to find those students who like just may be at the cusp of doing something great. Maybe, if they're at a predominantly white school and they're not being able to be successful, we could probably pull back the layers of understanding why that may be. And then once they're coming to the program, we help coach them through that process. And then for those students who are on reservation communities, where there's no honors classes, there's no AP, there's no IB available. And so we understand those students because most of our staff kind of simply come from those backgrounds. And so those are the pieces. We understand, we don't grill the students for all their academics and their academic performance, but we try to find those pieces. It's hard for them to convey, but we kind of have an idea of what we're looking for based on how they write about themselves and then how honest they are about their academic performance. If they do have those lower C's or D's, F's, those are the ways that we try to pull them out. And then the other piece, again, all through and through, is their culture connection. How honest can they write about it? How genuine? We're looking for those interesting pieces. when the students write about themselves.
Kendall, I really liked how you talked about the context, because that's something that we try very hard to do. So when educators ask me kind of what can I do, one piece is if you have a school profile, please update it, share that context, right? Are there APs in the school? I am based in New York City and I've done a lot of work with Brooklyn Tech, and like I now know that they have 1 million APs, but you're not allowed to take 1 million APs. You're only allowed to take like 1 or 2 junior year and like 2 or 3 senior year. And so understanding that means that I'll read the application differently. And the way we're trained, we have a very long training for application reading. And a lot of it is like, are the students taking the most advanced classes, the most rigorous classes, and doing the best they can based on what is available, right? And so, sometimes that means we do, especially for the National College Match, expect that students will go a little above and beyond, right? If a student has gone through all the classes that the school offers, they shouldn't have 3 classes senior year. They should be taking an online class. They should be taking community college class, right? But we're not expecting them to do something that they don't have access to. And understanding that context is huge. And for us, I think it's also kind of like that family responsibility piece or the part-time job piece, right? If they're not involved in something else, they're even something as simple as they're not able to stay after school because they don't have transportation, right? They can only take like the after school bus home. There's no late bus, and they don't have a car, right? So sharing those pieces really does help. But the other thing is we are looking for students that really are academically strong. And so, and because we are not high touch, will they be successful when they go to college, right? Are they academically ready to attend a 4-year school? We do have students every year who are not ready for the College Prep Scholars Program because those, not necessarily B's, but like those C's and D's, that's not something that's going to work for our program, especially not when they're applying with no junior year grades, right? They only have freshman, sophomore year. We're looking for ideally A's and some A's and B's, right? And so we get students every year who are kind of on that upward trajectory. And by the time they get to senior year, and they have all of their junior year coursework completed, we can see, oh, they were on the up and up and kept moving up. And now they're a stronger applicant, right? But for an 11th grade, they're not demonstrating that they're ready to do that. And so especially if you have a student that's coming, from where they maybe don't have test scores, it's not clear that they're going to be a really strong academic applicant yet. They might not be the right fit for the program. And one of the things that I think is important is like, we've been around for a long time, right? And we're not the program for everybody. And it might be okay. It is okay. It might be uncomfortable to talk to a student and say, hey, there are a lot of opportunities out here. This might not be the opportunity for you. Let's look and see kind of where you fall in our profile. And we talk about, and I'm sure you guys all talk with your students about kind of that middle 50% scores wise, right? And like what we're looking for might be different than what some of the individual colleges are looking for. But in general, are you on that track? Are you going to be kind of strong in that way? I think the other thing that is sometimes a little bit frustrating is we're looking for students who are also putting their best effort in the application and also following what the prompt is. So, for recommendation, we ask for a core subject, 10th or 11th grade teacher. If a student submits a recommendation or the recommender is a 9th grade art teacher, are they going to be automatically rejected? No. But does that make you wonder why are they submitting exactly the opposite teacher than what we strongly recommended, right? Like, do they not have a 10th grade or 11th grade teacher in a core subject that they had a good relationship with? That is a bit of a concern. It would, like I said, because we're holistic, one single factor would never be the reason to not accept somebody like that. But yeah, it's like we have if there's a prompt, answer the prompt. If it's blank, we're going to wonder why. If you have in the fall with the National College Match application, we usually have 800 word essays. The student puts down a 200-word essay. So that piece about really kind of if they're going to submit an application, making sure that they're doing the best that they can, because it really is a version of a college application. They're preparing, right? Same with, like Kendall said, they're kind of seeing how they can put their best foot forward. And if they're not like really ready to do the work, or they don't feel that they're able to do it at this time, like it's okay to say, this is not the opportunity for me. I will say students that are not accepted to the program are not penalized if they apply again for National College Match, truly. Selena, one of my colleagues, who some of you may have seen present, she does a lot of our content. She was not accepted to the College Prep Scholars Program, and she was matched to Pomona. It really does happen, but something has to change, right? Your grades have to go a little stronger, or your writing gets stronger, or maybe you just submit it at the last minute. But you know, we have to be honest with students too, in terms of, are they potentially a good fit for the program? Are they going to understand that if they're not accepted, it's not the end of the world, very much not the end of the world, not the only way to get a full scholarship. But it's also good practice.
Great, thank you so much. I do feel like context is so important to provide, both for the students to be providing it, and as counselors, if that's something that you can help provide. That seems like a common theme across both programs as well. Thinking about our audience in particular and what resources are available. There's a question in the chat that I think actually could be shaped for both you, Kendall, College Horizons, and Rachel, Questbridge. How do you all support students getting to your summer programs? Is there funding? And if so, do students have to apply for that separately, or is it bundled in with the program?
I can answer that. We offer some travel grants. And if the student receives a travel grant, they will receive it when they get the notification that they are a College Prep Scholar with the invite to the conference. But there are not very many. And so the positive is we've been able to do additional conferences in additional places. And I will say that, we've been remote for a long time. The virtual conference does feel like a real conference. But if the student is not going to be able to, if they are not getting a travel grant, which most students are not going to, and they're not going to be able to afford traveling to the conference, then the virtual conference is an option for them. But unfortunately, we don't have the funds to pay for everybody to attend. Once they get there, there's full breakfast, full lunch, snacks, coffee for that, or beverages, the whole thing for the student, and then also the parent or guardian if that person is attending. We do often have students that, like, a couple of students will come with one adult, especially like I said, I'm in New York City. I'm sure there'll be students from New York City where they're all taking the train with one adult to go to Philly for the day and then come back. But there's no large scale funding available.
Yeah, I'll just answer in relation to College Horizons in terms of cost. So there's no cost to apply, and then there's no cost to attend. We don't charge tuition anymore, but we do ask that families become responsible for their airfare to come to our program. And so it's a bit of our like enrollment deposit, if you will, to make sure that the student and the family are interested in coming to our program. That kind of solidifies their interest to come. And it's mainly to yeah, I'll leave it there. No, we'll drag it on. But we also do provide funding for certain students. And so in our parent form, we ask for families to submit information about their financials in their household. We'll have them submit like the first page of their tax return and maybe the W-2 if they're able to provide. And that's just to give us calculations for that we can offer, but also once the student comes to our program, that information is helpful for whenever we work with our faculty to make sure we're giving financially feasible options to the student who come to the program in terms of building the college list.
Awesome, thank you. And I know students get to try the wonderful dining hall food all week as well. So all of that also bundled up in there for College Horizons. Rachel, also just a quick question about the logistics of what happens at the conferences. Can you just give a quick overview of how long it is and what?
Yeah. Oh, it's a day. It's a long day. It's fantastic. There are, so super quick, a good portion of our staff is there. All of the college send a representative. It's usually somebody relatively senior, which is not, I think it's particularly exciting. The students and their guardians will come kind of first thing in the morning and have breakfast, and then they are randomly divided up. The students are grouped, and then there is programming for the parent or guardian all day. And then there's separate programming for the students, and they come back together for lunch, and then they come back together for a college tour at whatever school we're at. And then there are separate college fairs. So the students have a college fair separate from actually, and they're broken in half. So they actually have an opportunity to connect with people. And then the parents and guardians have their own college fair. So for the admissions representatives, it's a very long afternoon of college fair. But for the students, the sessions earlier in the day, there's how to write an essay. There's a financial aid session. There's a specific session just on the National College Match. And then we've done a couple different things. There's either a panel with current Questbridge scholars, or sometimes Michael McCullough, one of our founders, speaks. But there are a lot of different sessions, both in small groups, and then also like kind of an auditorium style session. And then we have a number of student volunteers who are current Questbridge scholars who come and work, kind of take the students along from one place to another. And then for the parents and guardians, it's a lot of listening and sitting. So there's also a financial aid section, which talks about, we obviously talk about Questbridge, but we also talk about kind of like, what's it like to attend, to pay for a competitive college. We do talk a little bit about how the price of private competitive colleges tends to be less for this, again, low income population that we're working with. We talk about the FAFSA and CSS profile. And then we do talk about National College Match. We have a panel for them too. So it's really involved. It's a lot. But it's, you come out, the students, the expectation is the students come out with a plan in terms of how to find a variety of colleges, right? And they're kind of like target, reach, and likely, whatever we want to call that term, kind of a plan in terms of what colleges are looking for when writing an essay. And then also they get an opportunity to really kind of go around and meet the different admissions representatives, and then also kind of connect with other students. So it's, think check-in. I mean, we have students that start checking in at like 7:30 and it goes until about 4:30. So it really is a full day. And every year, no matter where we are, we have students that have come with a parent where they've driven like 4 or 5 hours, and the parents actually sometimes even stay off campus, maybe, just kind of rest for the day, and the students are there, and then, and then they drive back in the evening. So it is very, very overwhelming. It's also always on a weekend, so either a Saturday or a Sunday. This year, the virtual conference is actually going to be on a weekday. It's going to be, I want to say it's Thursday, June 27th. So if you have students in New York, it's the day after public schools end for the year. But that's kind of a nice alternative because we have a lot of students that also are already done for the summer, or excuse me, done for the school year into their summer.
Awesome. And then I know, Kendall, you did a little bit of a big overview, but if there's anything else you want to add to the programming, feel free.
I guess thinking about what would make it different and useful. So College Horizons, it's something hard to convey to students to kind of get them energized to come to our program. But I think the main selling point that the students come away with is the relationships that they build at the program. Relationships they build obviously with the admissions officers and then the expert high school counselors that we invite. But it's really the connections that they make with the other students at the program. For our reservation kiddos, they're used to being in a classroom with 99% native students with them. For a good half of our students, I would say, they're coming from urban areas where, they may be the only native student in their entire like K through 12 experience. So being in a auditorium also with 100 other native students is kind of an empowering experience for them. So based off of that, we put students in small groups through the whole entire week, and they are matched with about 10 to 15 high school students at the program and about like 8 admissions officers in the faculty. And so they form that bond in the small group. And so it's kind of like the major kind of piece that they get to take away is they build those close relationships with those specific people in their small group. And then we have large group sessions where they kind of get to mingle, not as much, but the power is really the relationship they build in those small groups. So with that, we're navigating them throughout the day from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night when they go to sleep. And so they're going back and forth between their small group time and then their large group time. Small groups is where they're working more one-on-one. They're working on their materials for the program. And then large group is where they're having those lecture moments where we're kind of giving those larger pieces about the essay, the financial aid process. So it's all built around the relationship building and going back and forth between those two small, large groups.
Great, thank you so much. And I know we're starting to run low on time, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I guess to wrap up, I'm curious for both of you what you wish counselors on the admissions college side knew about your program when they see it in the application, and then what you wish counselors knew on the high school side to best support students in the application. Rachel, I know you touched on it a bit, but you want to expand on anything?
I don't have anything so much from the college side. I feel A, it's not my area of expertise, and B, I feel like we're pretty well versed. We spend a lot of time kind of working on our application. I think from the high school counselor side, I just want to reiterate that like we absolutely do read every application from front to back, and my team is the team that is answering questions at questbridge.org and educators at questbridge.org and CBO at questbridge.org. And like, I have a call on Friday with an educator who wrote in and he's like, you guys didn't read my kid's application. And we did. And usually, we will never be able to say this student didn't get in for this particular reason. We just have too many students we can't do that. But every single application is read by a human. Often they're read twice. I do a lot of second reads of applications that other readers, especially newer readers, have read. And usually there's a pretty clear reason. And so if you have students who you like, we're sure we're going to get in, I really highly recommend, please, before you say like Questbridge was crazy, look at the PDF of the student's application. And I'm always happy to have a call and talk through in generalities. There are lots of kind of commonalities that we see in terms of why students aren't accepted. But more often than not, it's in there in the application somewhere. And it's hard, and I would love for us to accept everybody, but we do have very kind of clear guidelines. And the good thing is we're not the only program, right? We're not the only opportunity, and we're great for the students that it's a good fit for, but it's okay if we're not a good fit for everyone.
Yeah, I'll add in terms of the college admissions side. I'll also kind of give a disclaimer that I'm not gonna say like this is how you should view the student. But it's something that we think deeply about at College Horizons, considering the Supreme Court decision around affirmative action. But we situate ourselves not differently or separately in terms of the affirmative action decision, but thinking about the political identity of Native students is always something that we try to advocate for when admissions officers are reading specifically American Indian and Alaska Native students. And it gets even more nuanced when you're talking about Native Hawaiian students, where our bottom line is that we wouldn't want you to see them only as a race or ethnicity. Is the reason why we bring those students and why we make them verify their ancestry and their enrollment is because they are a member of those tribal nations and of those communities. And so it's a way to honor that sovereignty, honor those legacies of resilience of Native people. And so that's kind of the piece that we try to do our due diligence on when we're bringing students to our program and kind of giving that vetting whenever they do include our name in the student's application. And then the other piece is that, that covers the Native piece. We also try to find those students who are at least above a 3.0 in their high school experience. And so we throughout the word high achieving to kind of cover all of our students, because based on their context, that's what we see, is that they are performing at the best of their abilities considering any other situation, whatever. But when we think about high achieving, we don't only see it as like the academic sense. We also think about high achieving in terms of their relationships, their connections to their community, their cultural knowledge. A lot of times we get students who are advanced like native language learners, and so we take that into consideration, if they're not strongest in math or science, but it's like they're a Lakota language 4 learner in high school. So that's something to take into account. And so it's always student by student basis. We don't give a flat out reason as why do we bring the student to their program. It's always about the context that the student is coming from. And we push them through the application process for reasons because we think there's a potential. And then we also then think about that long-term commitment to this idea of nation building for Native communities. And so we see that potential that the student could have the possibility to give back to their Native community or to Native people at large. We'll leave with that final comment.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us and sharing with us, Sig, about the wonderful opportunities that you provide students. We really are thankful for the work that you are doing to support counselors and to support rural and small town students in your initiatives as well. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will have this up and available via recording later. So if you missed anything or popped in halfway through, you can expect to find that. Anything else, Megan or Kim, you want to say before? All right, awesome. Well, good luck, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and thank you so much for joining.